Get busy one time.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
By the time I got to the basket, he was right here. He had recovery speed like a vampire.
Johns Hill was one of them. Yeah. Hess Park.
My brothers, first of all, Gary Sturgis Jones, Kip Jones.
The answer is that we're here to finish what we started. The Smith family, the Phillips, the Risbys, the Warrensleys, the Sidneys, the Jelks, the Barnes.
Happened to be, I saw Bruce Hawkins' name on the board at Kentner Gym, the greatest gym God ever allowed to be built.
Tyrese, there's nobody gonna snipe like Tyrese, so Tyrese on there too. So now I'm a super homer, gonna start with two Steve Decatur guys I graduated with.
And RJ would walk in every day and poke his head in my classroom and ask how I was doing.
Jimmy Bolton, we were teammates, we all roomed together when we went out. And basketball's been good to me because of that. I got to play with the Carson boys.
Well, the guys I looked up to were pretty young compared to like these guys.
That's all.
Gordon Voit, TV sports anchor whose work appeared on ESPN, CBS Sports, MLB Network. I'd be talking to these parents and I couldn't believe hearing from them how stressful, confusing, how competitive the process was, and just how flat out expensive recruiting is for these families. It's crazy. I went to work coming up with a solution to that problem. So I really hope we get a chance to work together because it's my mission to provide the best tiebreaker humanly possible for you in that fight. And everything gets going at 3dathlete.me. I'll see you there.
But I appreciate you all guys coming out. We're gonna share some stories. Hopefully they're not all lies, but we want to hear it. Some of the good, some of the good stories and some of the bad. And hopefully some of the guys of the future come in and kind of mix it in a little bit, see what we can get. Enjoy the menu, guys. Enjoy the NCAA games, and most importantly, it's good to have Gordon back in Decatur, picking up where he left off. When you talk about passion, if you look up passion in the dictionary, it should be a picture of this guy right here. That's what he does. He follows his passion, and of course, he's getting all that confirmation from the man up above, which is most important. All right, so thank you, Gordon. Appreciate you. Welcome back to the town, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. It's awesome to be back here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gordon Voit. Used to be the sports anchor at WAND, and it was much more than a job to me. This was my life and is my life. And I'm here because of the friendships that we got a chance to meet. I think just about everybody in this room, we have some sort of personal connection, and it was not just about sports. And I know that because I am one of the worst basketball players to ever come out of New Trier High School. So I know that you don't like me for my athletic abilities, but storytelling is my ministry. And we just had I was just so blessed by the relationships. I met each of you in a totally different context. We've got a whole cross-section of society in here. And for folks watching at home too, just so glad that you're a part of this night. So, what is this night? Why am I here? So I left 2.5 years ago, moved to Montana. A bunch of things changed. I'm looking to move back to Illinois now. Very excited about that. And I'm starting a business called 3D Athlete that tells the stories of high school athletes in order to get scholarships. So I thought that I was done telling sports stories, and God made it very clear to me that that's not the end of my time telling sports stories. So I'm back doing it for individuals and for teams, etc. So I'm just very grateful to get a chance to come here. And so why am I here other than the fact that this is a lot of fun? The answer is that we're here to finish what we started. So with Kita's Porch and some of the oral histories that we did with All Time 5, which is the project that, if you needed proof that I'm not married, It's because I made this, let's see, 15,000 word document here. Now that's not even the full one. I think the full one was like 25,000 words. I was staying up till 4 a.m. to research all the history, and many of you were featured in those stories. But then the pandemic shut that all down, and that was such a big bummer because we got the momentum going, you know, and I even sort of blurred the lines to do the story with Keita and Rodney out on the porch, because that was when everything was going haywire, so we're outside. And I just never really got a chance to finish that storytelling sort of vibe. And this is something that's so special about Decatur, is the commitment to history. And so we're here today to share those stories, to bring back those memories so that they don't go away. We've got it on video here. So we're going to share some stories from the parks and the official games. We want the whole cross-section. Aric Lee is smiling here. We want the whole cross-section, not just what was in the box scores, but just the culture. We're here to capture the culture. And so we're going to have a variety of you coming up. Just a couple of ground rules. One is just, that's all I ask is that you keep it respectful, and this is all about love. So as long as we do that, then we're golden. We're going to have a lot of fun here. I would like everybody who wants to speak, would love for you to share memory. And then after that, we can dive into some of the research that I did if you want to talk about individual teams. Here's the bracketology. In fact, this is an unreleased list here. The schools that barely made it. I don't know if you remember, I did 25 schools and then a playing game. And I never released the full bracketology, so we can get into some of that. But first, to lay the groundwork, I want to hear about your park story, because whether you're Kip and Keita Jones, or Jeff Roth, or my friend Terry Mason over here, who played in, Terry, what park did you play in? Hess Park. There's a whole range of park basketball, and I want to capture that before we get into some of the more varsity level stuff going on. So this all began with Mr. Keita Jones, so I'd love for you to come on up and share some of your park memories. That's right, I'm calling on you.
Roll on up, huh?
Yes, sir. Come on up here. And then be thinking about who wants to go after him, because this all started with Keita's porch, so now we're gonna keep this legacy going. So I'm curious to know, what is your park memory that you want to share here? Bite-sized park memory.
Give me 1 second, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. He's building the suspense.
Tell them your age, too.
What would be your walk-up song? We should have had this ready to go.
Teenager, man.
We were fortunate to be able to play with some of these vets, man.
Yeah, and here, Rodney, if you could come up too, I want you guys to kind of co-author this segment here. Please come on up here. Because you guys this is how it all began, Keita's porch. So tell me, what was your first park memory? What does it mean to be Decatur Parks?
First, you have to realize the age difference. I'll be 50 in October, and these guys had probably in between 6 to 10 years on us. And we were probably, 14, 15 years old, and they were allowing us to play with them. When I'm saying they were allowing us to play with them because we were actually pretty decent. We could hold our own, because believe me, if we couldn't, they would have kicked us off the court or told us going down there to the little kids' court somewhere. They was notorious for doing that. Right? But that was the biggest difference with this generation. With that generation was we had actual real competition to play against. These guys was at their prime. They was in their prime. So we went to the park. These guys, we watched NBA, we watched college ball, but in our eyes, these guys they was it. They was it, because they had did it. And then some of them were still doing it. And we were just privileged to be able to play with them.
So no, that's amazing. So what does it mean to play park basketball, and what made Keita Jones one of the best park players of all time? I know you're humble, so you're not gonna say that, but before I knew who you were, I heard that name, Kip and Keita. I was like, okay, I need to meet these guys before I hear their name again. So first of all, what is park basketball? How's it different from college? And you played at Lincoln University in Missouri, if I recall it correctly? Yeah, there we go. What does it mean to play park basketball?
Well, first of all, for
probably getting the best experience out of basketball. You know, these guys, right? You know, guys come up today, don't play park basketball for one. They barely come in the gym and play ball any. They rely on their talents maybe, and sometimes not relying on that. But park basketball is a grit and grind and the beginning of knowing and learning how to play basketball, especially here in Decatur with some of the people I played against in regards to getting a little better. But yeah, I hopefully probably was considered maybe one of the greatest basketball players. When I say that great, I mean going to the park every day and going to try to be great. So it wasn't so much of being great itself, but it's just going to the basketball courts and trying to be great.
So for you, when you were young, first playing those parks, who were those older guys that you looked up to, that you aspired to be?
Oh, plenty. I mean, how long do we get here? I got guys like my brothers. First of all, Gary and Sturgis Jones, Kip Jones, and we got guys like Jeff Roth. The Carsons, all of them, Tony Ray, Tyrone. Them are older ones, Calvin, and I mean, we got guys like Danny Ray Hughes, who was a few years older than me, Charlie Walker. I can go Hubert Carter, Jimmy O'Ham, and I mean, these guys like this started park ball. Perry Hines. I mean, I got a list, but if I miss anybody, they know I'm thinking of them. But yeah, I mean, there's so many people I can sit out here and just name that you can just go down the list, of 100, thousands of people. So yeah, it was park ball was a thing back then when I came up.
So if you were to take two people for a Gus Macker tomorrow, who are you taking with you on that team? You're all in your prime. Everybody's in their prime.
How you gonna put me on the spot like that? I mean, I don't know. I guess me and my brother. I don't know. I guess me and my brother. But if not,
Which
man,
brother? Don't specify.
Oh
You try to
man.
get up by saying this is my brother.
No comment. Tall Paul. They call him Sturgis Jones. Now him or either Kip. Yeah, one of the two. But man, so many people in here I take. A lot of them. But probably I don't know. I guess me and my brother, since we played together all our lives. Yeah.
I'd be afraid of no matter which combination of Jones brothers. That'd be tough. So Sturgis Jones, for those who don't know, this was the research that I did for All-Time 5. It's pretty small, but I'll read it for you. 6'6". He was All-State in 1973 at Eisenhower, which was a big deal. That's a big deal, and this is something I learned, is the farther back you go, the more that All-State stamp meant. That's not me trying to be controversial. Frankly, there were just fewer spots back then. We had one class up until, when did they go to 2 classes? 80s, okay. And then obviously 4 classes when I was in college, they switched. So now it's still a great thing that we celebrate, but if you were All-State in Decatur, away from the media spotlight, that meant a lot. So he averaged 19 points, 15 rebounds as a junior, and then I have here, might be the most physically gifted player in Eisenhower history. He was the Macon County Player of the Year, which also, again, the farther back you go, that has a lot of weight. 1972, he was Macon County Player of the Year. And so you talk about Sturgis Jones, that was a guy that, if you're looking, and this is the difficulty of researching these things, if you're looking from a college and pro perspective, which is kind of how modern basketball is oriented, you miss out on a guy like Sturgis Jones because the opportunities weren't there. And that's something that we had a really great breakfast that some of you were there, where we kind of chewed over some of these names. And that was one of the things that I learned from that was you can't just go based on what the databases tell you, because there's so much about what makes a player good that's not in a database, right? You were obviously Division I caliber. You playing at Division II had nothing to do with your ability. It's just sort of timing, opportunity, and we're not in Chicago, right? So there's not as much exposure. I'll give you another perfect example of that. One of the guys that you may have seen a segment we did on his Ballhead Watkins.
Big George.
Big George, there you go, yeah, exactly. Boy, that was so much fun to learn from. And then his nephew was able to come into the station and share that story. Just an amazing guy. It's funny because if you see in my research, there's all these question marks. Went to ABA question mark. It's because back then records just weren't kept as much. So a guy like that, you know, he was given a contract. There's some ambiguity over did he play in the ABA, but he was in the class of '68. And so that's another one of those guys, but if you're looking just at the college databases, they might fall through the cracks, but still pretty special. So, Keita, before I let you go, if you were to take 2 players after you to join you on a team, some of the younger guys that you saw, clap it up for Courtney Carson, everybody. Thanks for being here. The Reverend, thank you. Thank you, sir. If you had to pick 2 new school guys, I'm talking like 1990s and after, who would you pick to join you on a Gus Macker team? No siblings left.
Well, first of all, the one who joined me was one of probably the greats that came out here by the name of Teresa Bryson, who played on the Gus Macker team with him, won several tournaments with him.
Together, so
Yeah.
it's like new school and old school.
Yes, exactly. And the other one, oh man, I can't think. Maybe I got a couple of them, man, that I might would take. Maybe a Cortez Bond or a John Cliff maybe. Corn maybe possibly. Yeah, corn.
Mr. Jeff Roth's got a question.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff, would you like to come on up and ask your question?
I just wanted to.
Yeah, no,
Since
come on
we're
up here.
talking about Sturgis.
Yeah, please, no, here. I'm going to reposition the camera. I want you to speak on the mic here and share the stage with Mr. Keita.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff Roth, Boston College. Please welcome to the stage. Whoa.
Since we're talking about Sturgis, he was a little older than I was, and I mesmerized watching him play as an 8th grader. And something that was ironic about Sturgis was that he was left-handed. He had this little left-handed hook that just messed everybody up, because most of the time, a big man like him would post up somebody with his left side, but they would shoot right-handed. He was just the opposite. And he was probably a very, I'm glad I didn't have to play against him, but he was a very tough guy to play against because of his left hand, which is, how many left-handers do you see out there that have a little jump hook like he did? Not very many. I just wanted to add that about Sturgis, because Sturgis was a very gifted athlete, very gifted basketball player. And I just wanted to, he was one of my heroes, by the way, too. One of the reasons I was the player I was is because I watched Sturgis Jones play. And him and his compadres, you know.
No, you're not going anywhere. Thank you for clapping, but that's, yeah. Jeff, what were your battles with Keita? Did you guys ever go at it in the parks?
We went at it, but he's like a little boy to me, you know. I mean, he's a baby.
Age-wise.
Yeah, age-wise, we had a big difference there. And, you know, I'm sure Keita has the same thing about me. They watched me and some of my buddies that I played with, and it got him going to play basketball, you know, and it encouraged him, you know. And that's what's important to understand, is watching kids play today, they have an impact on younger people. They really do. And I thank you, Brother Calvin, to have the thing that you have going on every July, is because those kids have dreams, and they see kids with success, and that makes them want to have success. So that's why you just keep doing what you're doing, Calvin.
10 years this year.
10 years. Praise the Lord. Huh?
He's been doing it longer than
10 years?
Well, Rodney was about 7 years old. He was my first student.
Okay, there's an example right there, Rodney being a student, you know.
He said 50. I'm the one.
And Rodney, I know you can say a lot about the Carsons and the Carson family and how they've developed you as a player and how they encouraged you, you know, and probably with the Jones family as well. And it's just awesome to, you know, Decatur is not a very big town, but it's big enough to know that there's a lot of athletes that come out of there, and there was a lot of competition in these parks. And it's something that's kind of sad to see right now, because we have real good parks in this town with real good basketball courts. And I'm not seeing kids out there like it was in the day. And it's a shame. I don't know why, but you know, at Hess Park, for instance, there's 6 basketball courts out there. There should be hundreds of kids out there every night from 9 o'clock in the morning till when the lights go off. And I'm not seeing that right now, and it's sad.
So what was your park that you went to? And
I
what are your
went to
memories of that
wherever
park?
the people competed the most. And it changed. Sometimes it was Lincoln Park. And I lived out in South Shores. I didn't have a car. I actually ran. I ran across that trestle over there of the river, and I went down to Lincoln Park. And you guys remember, when you played to win. Why? Because if you won, you stayed on the court. Losers had to come off. Well, the last thing you wanted to do was lose, right? But it wasn't. That's right. You might not get back on.
Go to another park.
Exactly. That's how it was. So, but Johns Hill was a very, very high competition there, and that's where me and the Carsons kind of got together with Art Hicks and
Snooky.
yeah, Snooky Hicks, and we had tournaments out there, and all the athletes of Decatur would go and combine to go to these parks and compete, and it was fun. That's where you develop your game a lot, you know. I mean,
Go ahead and say the Hill was where it's at. You know that?
Johns Hill was one of them. Yeah. Hess Park. Johns Hill probably was the most competitive one of them all. You know, I mean.
Yes, sir. Mueller Park. Wayne Dunning in the house.
But I will say this: as a 6th grader, I lived out in South Shores. And do you know all the high school players at that time went to South Shores and played? Well, I can't tell you how I enjoyed that, because I had to earn my way out there. And there was a fellow named Denzel Patton. He initiated me. I don't know if anybody knows Denzel. Hello, Wayne. How you doing? But I said, I'm going to play with these guys, and I was a tall 6th grader, so they didn't know how old I was. But they allowed me to play, and I decided to set a pick on. I forgot what his first name is, because this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
Hawkins. What's his first name? Good baseball player with the Stephen King. Bruce Hawkins.
See, that's why this is a community event. Filling the gaps, right? Yeah.
Bruce had the ball. I decided, and Denzel was, and this is the last second shot, or the last shot of the game. I mean, it was 11-11. We played to 12. So the people that scored the 12th basket was going to win. We had the ball. I decided to set a pick on Denzel, who was guarding Bruce. Bruce came off my pick, took the shot it. Denzel hit me like a ton of bricks. I came flying down on the ground. But I was a 6th grader, but Bruce hit that, and that was my initiation. Hey, that kid took that. We're going to keep him on this team. So that's just one of the things that brought me involved in Decatur. And I gained confidence at that time, and then by the time high school came around, we got together with the Carsons, and a lot of people said, they ain't going to win. I can't tell you how many, because they had Tony, they had Tyrone, myself, and Art. They're too small. Well, you guys want to tell them what happened? Come on, Tony, tell them what happened. Come on.
So we transition here. Yeah, we're gonna have a full Carson segment. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, it was awesome. Jeff Roth, Katie Jones, thank you so much, guys. Yeah, in case you can't read the text here, Jeff had the chance to play at Boston College. He was All-State in 1976, over 1,200 points. Sweet 16, which is pretty amazing. One class Sweet 16 in 76, or two classes, I apologize. And yeah, special career, and then Decatur, one of the best players in Decatur history. So that was a little bit about the parks. Who else has a park story? Is there anything we didn't mention? Terry, I think you might need to share some Hess Park memory. Terry, you want to talk about Hess Park? Okay, so Terry Mason, everybody. I'm blessed to call Terry brothers, one of my closest friends, and he's here representing the Runnin' Reds. Okay, so this was one of the best. I know Terry will be the first to tell you. He was a JV player, got a little taste, but you were there for what I want you to do is paint a picture of what it was to be a Runnin' Red fan.
Yeah, thanks.
You had two, and
everybody else a ball player. I'm a fan.
You made the varsity team, so you were a Runnin' Red. Also had two brothers who played Division I ball, and many Masons have populated the halls of fame here in Decatur. So, but in addition to just being a terrific guy, Terry, first, can you just explain what Hess Park was like growing up?
It was wonderful, and most of you people probably, heard the stories about parks, but parks is where you went. And we lived in the Elms, and we were 3 houses off of Broadway at the time, and now Martin Luther King, and we would go to the parks and pick up basketball, pick up baseball, and to play baseball, you had a bat and a ball and no parents, so it was kind of nice because there wasn't that much competition. You would just go there and have fun. And basketball was a thing that I always dreamed about, but I was never any good at. But there were a lot of people that played with my brothers and a lot of people that played during the 60s and the 70s. Most of you people weren't even born yet at that point, especially you younger guys. But and some of you guys, I wrote down some of these names and I just couldn't believe it after I got to thinking about it.
Yeah, so who were some of the names that you had at Hess Park and just in those days?
Hold on now. These weren't Hess Park. These were people that you probably remember. The Smith family, the Phillips, the Risbys, the Warnsleys, the Sidneys, the Jelks, the Barnes. I mean, these guys were people that I looked up to and watched during my 5th, 6th, 7th grade years and then into high school. And of course, that's like when Gordon said there was only one class then. And so it was nice to be able to go to if you went to a Sweet 16 game or you went to a sectional tournament, there would be 6 to 9 buses of fans going with you. And it really was quite a bit different than what it is now. But it's just amazing. Sports in Decatur has been wonderful. It's been fun to watch. And I've just been a very, very small part of it, but I really, really liked it. And Wayne Dunning was one of my favorites. And it's just one of those kind of things where people, of course, change. We all get older over the years, and but it's fun to come and hear about this kind of thing. And I'll let it go with that. What other name? Does anybody remember Cleo Spence? Anybody? One of you older guys? Cleo Spence was one of the most incredible basketball players ever. And I don't know that he ever played in college, but in high school and in the parks, he was something else. He did things that nobody else could do at that time. And nobody dribbled behind their back, nobody dribbled between the legs, nobody dunked, nobody did any of that stuff, but Cleo did all that stuff. And man, it was fun to watch. That was it.
Thank you so much. So, I don't know if folks realize just the hysteria that was surrounding those teams. So could you take us, you mentioned the buses a little bit. You said you got there like 1:30 in the morning or so. What was it like to be part of that hysteria? Because as we're seeing here on this screen, we're talking 1931 state champs, 36.
Oh, I'm not that
40,
old.
I know. But look at this. Look at this sweet spot here under John Schneider and Jack Kenny.
Yeah.
Even these teams, and of course the famous was it 1964? Yeah, right. So that was a huge upset. That team should have won state. But we're talking about just imagine in a one class system, first, third, fourth, and fourth being disappointing. To finish fourth place. Just what was the just from your perspective, what was the grassroots experience like being a part of that hysteria?
Oh, it was really nice. And again, the high school sports were just amazing. And I grew up in a time there was still Stephen Decatur, the old Stephen Decatur there with Kentner Gym. And Kentner Gym would be just absolutely packed with people. And you wouldn't walk on the floor. It was like holy ground. They had a rubber mat around the perimeter like most gyms do anyway, but you would not have set foot on that thing without taking some real hits. But when they would sign up to go to a sectional game or to a state tournament game, people would go to the school at 1, 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the morning to get in line to buy tickets. And it was special. When you went to a state tournament, it was pretty special. But lots of fond memories, lots of fans' fond memories.
That was amazing. And trophies too. You brought home the hardware. Thank you so much, Mr. Terry Mason. Alrighty, here. Oops. Yeah, seriously. Alright. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it was really just incredible because me coming in 2016, Stephen Decatur was, the junior high that hosted the turkey tournament. So I came in with no knowledge of that, and it was so much fun to learn about just the history. And unfortunately, if I had one or two things I could change about Decatur, it's why did we tear down all those beautiful gyms and buildings and the schools?
Our wonderful school board.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they had some sort of rationale there, but it would have been great to see these gyms that held, I think, 5,000, 4,000. I mean, big time, and that could have been such a cool piece of Hoosiers lore. So, researching those teams with, got a chance to do an interview with Jack Sunderlich, who's a Millikin Hall of Famer, was an incredible. He even had an NBA tryout. Much like Pastor Wayne Dunning. So thank you so much for that, Terry. So before I call on somebody, would anybody like to share a story about their upbringing or about the parks? All right, good, because you were the one I was going to call on too, so that works out perfectly. Pastor Wayne Dunning, first of all, great to see you. Give me a hug. Thank you so much for being here. Pastor Wayne came into the studio and he was representing Lakeview. That was such a cool piece of Decatur. You got the green jumpsuit on.
You know about Lakeview, don't you, Keaton?
I wonder if I could even call up your video
Keaton
here.
and Kim were Lakeview products before they became, before they became traders. Before they went over to transfer. Where was they born and raised at though? Yeah. Out on the south side.
All right, so Mr. Wayne Dunning, before I call up please give a round of applause for Mr. Wayne Dunning. We had so much fun when you came into the studio and we chopped it up about your history. And so I'd like to share some of those memories with folks. First of all, can you just tell me about your origin story coming up in Decatur? What was young Wayne Dunning's experience like? Here we go. This was you. There's Mark Tupper, Sean Strady there.
I remember Sean when he was just a little older.
Yeah? Awesome. And
Sean went to St. Teresa though.
That's right. Okay.
Where's this guy? Is he here today?
No, Lewis isn't here.
Where's this guy? Is he here?
I haven't seen him.
All right, so here's some of the Lakeview all-time five. So real quick, I'm just going to read some of the names. Eddie Taylor,
E.T.
Dave Marquis,
Yeah.
Ron Stutz,
Yeah.
Dave Dakin, Wayne Dunning, Dave Kupish, Dick Floyd, Jonas Bond, John Kotzelnick, Dan Cruz. So many memories there. But first of all, Pastor Wayne Dunning, just what was the beginning of your love story with Decatur basketball when you were really young?
When we moved down from Chicago, Illinois, I was 9 years old. Went to William Harris. So I was a Stephen Decatur running red. I was a Stephen Decatur running red. I used to go to Krzyzewski's football. Stephen Decatur had their football tryouts. The back football team at Hess Park. So, I'd see these guys hitting, and then Bruce Hawkins, he was a quarterback. Was a baseball player. I remember Jerry Thomas. I don't know if you guys remember Jerry Thomas, the track star. Bert Ekus, John Sauer, Mike Moore, Jerry Thomas. Those are guys I was idolizing, those guys. And even the track stars, Ron, big Ron Dixon, I believe, Rod Dixon. But anyway, basketball at Hess Park, we play what we call Dirty 21. You guys know what Dirty 21 is. There's no fouls. So when it was 21, but you could kill each other. And prison ball. No blood. If it was no blood, no foul. If you called a foul, you were pretty much, they called you some names. But anyway, that's how tough we got. That's how tough we got at Hess Park. And I think Coach at the time, I forget his name, but he asked Bert Ekus and John Sauer and Mike Moore to come down to Hess Park. You want to get tough, you got to go to Hess Park in order to get tough. So I remember as a fifth grader, I was going to be a Stephen Decatur running red. And then my mom moved over to Eisenhower District. We were in Eisenhower District. I was going to be a Eisenhower Panther because I saw Jeff Roth in 1976. I saw Hubert Carter win a couple, 2 or 3 MVP this turkey tournament, and I saw Barr, I saw Dave Hood, I saw Bohannon Sangster, I saw Robert Sangster. I said, I'm going to be a Panther. I'm going to be a Panther. And then that year they redistricted, the redistricting in Decatur, and then I all of a sudden in 3 months I went from a running red to a Eisenhower Panther, and then I ended up, then we got to go to Lakeview. So anyway, we went to Lakeview and Jonas Bond, and you guys know all those names, but we went to Lakeview High School. So that was a part of my upbringing, but we chased competition. Remember, Rodney, we chased competition. If there was a game, and we knew, Michael Saines over there, hey, those guys are at Southside, so we went over and we chased the competition. But mainly we went to Garfield Park, and we went to Torrance Park, and Hess Park was also part of it. But we chased. If the competition was at Monroe Park, we went to Monroe Park. Later on, as we got older, we went to Sunnyside, and we had a lot of competition there. This was after things were happening. But growing up, the main thing that really influenced me was just wanting to be. I saw Bruce Hawkins' name on the board at Kettner Gym, the greatest gym God ever allowed to be built. Seated 5,000.
What made it so great?
It's just what it was. If you ever seen the movie Hoosiers, that was Kettner Gym. Yeah. And it was just right in downtown Decatur. And I got to play as a 7th and 8th grader. Got to play in this little, I forget what they call the competition, but you shoot a free throw and then you make a layup and you shoot. There's like 5 spots you shoot around. And I got to play as a 7th and 8th grader. And I said, man, one of these days I'm going to play at Kettner Gym. And anyway, long story short, they tore it down. One of the saddest things that ever happened to Decatur was Kettner Gym. Did you? Who all played in Kettner Gym? So Jeff, you probably the only one knows what I'm talking about.
I played it.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. There was so much history there.
Rodney, you walk in the gym and you just were floored. And this was every day. The mystique of Kettner Gym, you just walk in there, when you walk in, and you couldn't step on the floor because they shined that thing up. The shine on it, you could see yourself on the floor. You couldn't step on the floor. They have ropes around it all the time, so you never could step on it. You're right, Terry. You just couldn't step on the floor. Right. But just growing up was just amazing because I look at all the names, all the talent. And I see some of the names and some of the people there, and you guys, we can't forget Perry Hines. We can't.
He's working today, otherwise he'd be here. But PT's working today, unfortunately.
So we can't.
PT, yeah.
I can't forget Hubert Carter. Jeff was my idol. I saw Jeff Roth play, and I've never seen anybody hustle. I said, you know what? I'm gonna hustle. They may be quicker, they may have a better jump shot, they may have a better dribbling skills, they may have the ball, all that, but they will not. Jeff, 1976, I saw you, and I'm getting ready to cry. I said, nobody's gonna out-hustle me. Nobody. In practice, I tried to finish first. Eddie Taylor and Jonas Bond had a lot to do with me trying to finish first all the time, but when I saw you play in 76, I've never seen a man go after the ball, the game, defense, offensively, the way you did. And I said, you know, myself, when I grow up, if I ever get to be on a basketball team, I'm going to play like that, man. If you ask some of my coaches who coached me, Don Walker and Tim Littrell and Joe Ramsey, I wouldn't practice started at 3:30. I was there at 2:30. As soon as class was out, first one to practice, last one to leave. I just practiced. People say, oh, he's so good, he's just born that way. Rodney will tell you, Jeff will tell you, Tony will tell you, Keita will tell you, it took practice. More than anybody else. I dribbled with one, I saw Pete Maravich drill. You guys remember those? Dribble with your baby finger, then your ring finger, then your middle finger, then your what's this finger? The pointing finger, and then your thumb. And just do that, you know. Somebody told me if you do that 15 minutes a day for 7 days a week, for 365 days, you practice 13,000 more hours over that time. By the time you're 18, you practice 13,000 more hours than a guy who never did anything. Right. And I figured that out, and they oh, he's so good. No, it was as Allen Iver would say, it was practice. It was practice. It was practice, man. It was practice. So we just practice. But as I look around, I see some of you guys. I'm flattered to be mentioning some of you guys' names. You know, the Carsons were my big brothers. They always influenced me. Their family lived on Carson, on Conda Street, and I would go around, sneak over there, and saw these little guys, all these little guys playing. You know? Not but little guys, but if the ball, they had the best game under the rim. If the ball hit the floor or went near the floor, the Carsons got it. And have you ever seen them in the 3-on-3 basketball tournaments? So when I look around, I see these, and I see Keita, and I see Kip and Keita, and I see all these guys. I see Aric Dabney. Aric was a tri-sport athlete. 3 or 4. How many sports you do, Aric? 4 or 5? And 6. But he did everything well. But if you mentioned the name Carson, that name is just synonymous with staying at it, going after it, speed, quickness. And I just see all these guys around here, and I'm just so impressed. And don't forget some of the St. Teresa athletes. I know we talked about the Lakers, but a lot of the St. Teresa athletes didn't go to the park, so I wasn't influenced by them as much. I do remember Phil Jones. But I don't. One of the things that really impresses me is that the kids don't go to the parks now, Rodney. Right. And that's so sad. I look around. I'm sure you probably guys already talked about it, but I go to the parks on Sunday afternoon after church, packed. Saturdays, packed. Every park was packed, and we went to the competition. So that was sad to me. But you know, we didn't have the great facilities they have now. We didn't have the key to the gym. You know, Rodney has a key to the gym, so they don't have to go to the park. Remember in the parks, guys, remember if the wind was blowing, we shoot it there because we knew it would curve into the basket. It was amazing how we were figuring out physics and science and, you know, all this stuff all over a game, you know. So I'm impressed with the athletes here. I just really, sometimes I look at I'm a, what do you call it, a stalker when it comes to information. Dad and I've stalked your information. Jeff, I'm a historian. When I'm like Gordon, I just look at, man, this guy must have been phenomenal. Keita, I thought I had big hands. You know, I do have some big hands, but I saw Keita one time at a 3-on-3 tournament. Gus Macker, just take the ball and do something. I said, man, I got to grow my hands even bigger because Keita made somebody look pretty goofy, and But I look at the talent we have, and Rodney, I didn't get to see you as much. I saw you while you were just you amazed me. I said, man, this guy goes to St. Teresa. He's not supposed to be that good. He goes to St. Teresa. They're supposed to be good in football. But he brought basketball, and then when Dad came over, I went to a few games, and then University of Illinois, all these big colleges were coming out to St. Teresa to see these two guys play. And so I said, man, it's just amazing. Decatur's got some good sports, got some good ball players, good talent. And we got a lot of guys who never made high school or college teams, and they were phenomenal. You guys know who they are. I won't mention their names, but some of these guys made some teams that we played against them that they just were phenomenal. But they got in trouble. You know, something happened. But to end it, I know that when I moved from Chicago to Decatur, I thought this was going to be something bad. But when we moved down here, my mom it was in '69 remember when Martin Luther King was shot in '68, riots in Chicago. My mom said, we got to get out of here. It was black and white. It's a very segregated part of the city. We grew up on 1654 West 14th Place on the west side of Chicago. It was pretty tough. So Mom just had to get us out of there. So we moved down to Decatur. CJ, Brother Carson, I left my bike outside and it stayed there the next day. We left the windows open on the weekend, left the door unlocked, and came back. We asked the neighbor to watch the house. The neighbor watched the house. The house was still there. And we could keep the doors unlocked on the car. So Decatur really saved my family's life and saved my life. So, and all these guys, I love every single one of these guys in here. These guys, you guys are amazing. So I look at you and I learn from you. I study. I'm still a student of the game. And I watch this game. I watch this great game. I think basketball has the greatest athletes in the whole wide world, bar none. And you guys, I'm glad to be a part of this fraternity here. Thank you so much for having us today. Let's give Gordon a big hand.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. And really quickly, just sort of encapsulates who Pastor Wayne is. Did he mention that he got a tryout with the Bulls one time in that whole talk? What was that? That was all about other people inspiring him. So the word Bulls didn't even come up in your talk. You did have a tryout with them, though?
Yep, 1985, College of DuPage. And
was that with Jordan?
Yes, that was. He wasn't.
Or he was 84, 85. Okay.
He wasn't trying out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but
he was there, but
the uniforms had the same colors, so we don't care about anything else. Yeah.
Philadelphia 76ers. Mayor Anderson sent me to Philadelphia. He paid for my trip. Went out, filled up the Washington Bullets. And Phoenix Suns.
Wow, Bullets, Suns, Sixers. Wow.
You guys remember the Washington Bullets, right? They were called.
Oh yeah. That's incredible. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so I'm trying to think, should we do the Carson segment now, or do we want to fill in some of the more recent history? I think we got to go Carson segment now.
Carson.
So if I could have all the Carsons come on up here and grab this mic. I'm going to run the camera, and I'm just going to get out of your way. I'm getting out of your way, so if your last name is Carson, come on up, please. Yeah, please. Okay, yeah, here's a transition. Calvin Carson.
I want to brief something on Skywalker. Everybody want to know how Rodney grew up. Rodney came to my first practice back in the day. When I was at Eisenhower, them kids kept me in shape, so that's why I was coaching way back then. But Rodney, you know, I always talk about heart. Rodney didn't have the best game then, because I had to teach him how to make a lane. But he had the meanest heart. Any kid that was going to play sports is what you need today, because he didn't take no stuff in karate. He just had this mean tournament. I remember him getting in almost a fight with a girl. he didn't care. He didn't take no stuff. But we played my own school. We was the Little Kings, and we played a bunch of girls at that time. And I got kicked out. My head coach. Rodney came to me. Don't worry, coach. We gonna beat them. That heart in them. I waited in my little Camaro, waiting for the game to get done. here go Rodney carrying the big trophy. I told you we won. So yeah, so his heart determined to him how he is today. Came a master basketball player. You can't do nothing but get better when you have a heart like that. And I wish today a lot of these kids understand what heart is. And that's really a master of basketball. My man.
We're good teachers, man.
All right, so first of all, I'd love for you to just introduce yourselves and explain where you fit into the family. And you guys can, if you could all squeeze in here, we want you all in the frame. Yeah, Courtney, come on, let's go. What was your last name again? All right, so I'm gonna make sure for some reason the screen isn't cooperating anymore. I'm not sure what happened.
Collegiate. See how he's trying to like let up there.
And I think hopefully once we get going, more Carsons will come filtering in. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna shut this off. All right, we want all the attention on the Carsons here. So yeah, if we could just squeeze in everybody. I'm gonna stand here. So, okay, this is the Carson family. I got a chance to do a story. It was like a 16-minute long extended cut just talking about their Macker days and just sort of the legacy of, yes, the trophies. We've all seen the trophies in the basement, but more so with my research, right? So I'm an outsider coming in, trying to learn about this. One of the common threads that's woven through seemingly thousands of people's stories is Mrs. Carson's backyard, and just how special of a place that was. I was not physically there, but I feel like I was there because I've heard about it so many times, and so I'd love to ask you about that. But first, I'm just going to have you just introduce yourself really quickly, explain where you fit into the family. So I guess we'll start with Courtney because you're on the right here, on the left side. Come on over here, please. We got one mic and it's on a short cord, so no, come on here. On you. Thanks, sir. I'm gonna move over here. Get out of your way.
Courtney Carson, I'm Alice Carson, John Carson's grandson, the phenomenal full force Carson's nephew, and man, and a fan of this beautiful family.
Coach Calvin Carson, one of the youngest ones.
Yeah, Goldie. I got a lot of names, but no, my name is Tyrone, and I'm 66 and proud of my age. A lot of people don't make it this old. But I think all my brothers now, they followed after me. If I wanted to do something, okay, they're gonna do it too.
All right, next in line.
Vince Carson, aka Mike, the center. 5'9.5" center. Me and my brother here, Calvin, all we did was pass the ball growing up because Tony and Tyrone, they ran the show. Growing up, that's how we got our game together, following them, our idols, big brothers.
Okay, we're going to circle back to the roles. Yeah, we'd love to hear more about that, but if we can just finish the introductions.
Yeah, I'm Reverend Tony Carson.
And where do you fit in the family? I mean, everybody knows you, but yeah.
Yeah, I was one of the shooters. Tyrone was a shooter also, but he penetrated the basketball, and I was always there available for him to give me the ball.
Ran to that open spot.
I always had the belt of mine because Tyrone was the most talented person on getting off a layup over, I don't care how tall you were. I watched him get layups over 7-footers. And I'm saying, you know, I've been watching this man all my life. I'm saying, how does he do that? How's he getting this ball off over big guys? You know, so we did follow Tyrone. And we all just respected each other's game and each other's role. And Calvin and Vincent, they played a great role of just being there. Do what you have to do so we can win.
Role player.
They were the others.
All right. Y'all might not know me, but I'm Randy Carson.
And where do you fit into the family?
I am a nephew of these, my coaches. These are my coaches except him. But these four are my coaches. And I played ball, but I was the hard-headed one. Got in trouble a lot, but I liked the street ball. I wasn't a gym rat, I was a street baller. I like to go to every park in Decatur and play the competition. So I couldn't find the competition, so I called all the players. It's a long story, but we had fun at the park, and I'm happy y'all did this. I appreciate all y'all. This is beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. So, yeah, just I guess we'll go back to Courtney. So, could you paint the picture of who your uncles were to you growing up?
Yeah.
Just what were the different characters, right? They each did something a little different personality-wise.
I think that they all showed us that it was extremely important to shoot the ball for sure, right? Because they all were phenomenal shooters. It's funny because I never really saw Calvin practicing. Calvin would take a year off of basketball, then come back to the gym and never miss a shot, right? He just had it in him for some reason. But definitely Goldie, or Uncle Tyrone, was the general on the basketball court. And for sure, Reverend Tony was this magnificent. He's probably he's got the purest jump shot in the city of Decatur to me. And they were legends growing up. Yeah, most certainly. Did you just say really? Oh, for real, yeah. I was gonna argue that if it was, right, he had one of the most purest jump shots in the city of Decatur, and the court vision that Goldie had as a point guard / shooter was just magnificent. I think I kind of tailored my game off of him and Randy. And Pike was the strongest little guy I've ever met in my life. I watched Gus Macker tapes of this team destroy folks, right? Individuals come back from school and individuals got the big names. They would try to go against these dudes in the Gus Macker, and I would watch Tony and Tyrone and Uncle Pike and Uncle Calvin destroy and massacre individuals on the pavement, and it was just beautiful. But I saw Pike, some tall dudes was talking slick, he was trying to defend Pike, and Pike had this beautiful turnaround, and he shot the ball way behind his back like he was trying to wipe his butt, right? So he was coming way back here so no one could block his shot. And it was just magnificent to watch, and watching them created a situation in the younger and the nephews to where we wanted to be just as good, just as fast, just as quick, win just as many trophies as they did. I believe maybe, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that Keita and Kip, they got the Gus Macker ring, right? Yeah. So they went and got those rings, but maybe the Carson family as a whole got more Gus Macker trophies than anybody probably in the country because there's so many different generations, right? So if it's
how many were we talking?
So I had 11.
He had 11.
That's championship.
That's first place championships. I believe they had 40 plus first place championships. My team, my generation, I think my team, we had like 20 plus. And then Millikin, their team, they got a lot of first place trophies in the Gus Macker. So as a whole, the Carson family, in reference to Gus Macker's, got a lot of first place. And so it was magnificent that Rodney Walker brought that back. Thank you so much. Because the history is there, right? The makeup for, it gave young people in the city of Decatur something greater to do, something to believe in, because bring it back. Yeah, we should bring it back. But that part of basketball is essential. That being in the park, or now is being in Skywalker. And I'm gonna say this too, because grandma's house was literally, well, I'm gonna say it like this: Skywalker is the modern day Carson's backyard for the most part. And everybody came through my grandma's house. I remember being a kid looking through the window, seeing a mammoth amount of people sitting around or even on the basketball court watching individuals play basketball. And that's kind of what you get at Skywalker, especially on a Thursday night. You see everybody playing pickup ball, and then you even see young people on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights, right? playing basketball, and that kind of reminded me of Grandma's house. So Grandma kind of started that formula. Rodney picked up because Rodney was back there as well. That boy head was big, man. That boy, little bitty body with a big old head. Playing basketball, it was so magnificent, and so it's pretty cool to see how that transition and that formula has been instilled, and now Rodney is taking that on because he reaches individuals from the age of, I know my son was 3 years old playing in his basketball camp into college, right? So that's big, that's huge, and I thank God that he has the kind of integrity to always reach back and say, you know, I got this from this kind of method from the Carsons, because I grew up down the street, I grew up in their house, I grew up in their backyard. So it's a beautiful situation, man. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, uncles, for all that you've done to really instill in all of us here in this room, because as you can hear, whether it's Wayne Gunning or Keita, yeah, we are missing Ken. Oh yeah, he got a lot of trophies too. Amen.
Well, all my 11, all the championship trophies went to Ken.
Yeah.
So all I got was the little ones. Ken got all my big ones.
Right. Yeah, because he paid for it.
Uncle Ken. Okay.
Yeah, Uncle Ken was one of, he was
in Atlanta.
He was playing basketball, then he was sponsoring the teams as well, and that's just magnificent, man. So thank you all for giving the Carson family so much kudos.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Sorry.
No, that was great. That was amazing. So I want to know, what was the role each of you played? You touched on it a little bit, but when you're out there on the court, and you're all about 5'7" or 8 or 9, right? So you're going up against these bigger guys. What was your role? What was your role? And just, we could go down the line and say, what was your role in the team?
Calvin was the bully.
Well,
was the bully.
Well, my role was kind of like the bully. The big old guy made me play the Indiana team. Them guys were like 6'8", 6'5", and I remember just fouling the heck out that big dude. He said, man, I just gotta give you credit. I'm not even mad at you. But yeah, just with the backbone of the team, you know, hit a few J's every now and then, just kept it rolling.
I was a center.
Okay. Okay, I'm 6'1", and you're up to my chin, maybe. But you could probably back me down in the post.
Yeah, I would have had you. Yeah. You would have been in my back pocket, man. At that time, because my knee, I hadn't broken a knee back then, so I was jumping pretty good. So, but yeah, I was a center, pick and roll all the time. I mean, it was, we had so many pick and roll situations going on where couldn't nobody really understand what we did or how we was doing it, but we got it done. We got lots of layups. Yeah, that was my role.
Excellent.
And the rebound.
Spacing and moving without the ball.
Still work. Motion offense.
My role was to set everybody up. They give me the ball, everybody go to their right spots.
Corner.
Okay, I look at Tony, and Tony knows I'm gonna go to this spot where ain't nobody here because I know the ball gonna come. And then Hite, believe it or not, he gave us some good low post positions, so we could get the ball in the one. But the best thing,
he can shoot too now.
Oh, he can definitely shoot. But the best thing about him was, in order to win those type of trophies, you can't be selfish. You can't hold the ball or anything like that. I think one game, Tony was kind of shooting a lot. We on the corner, Pipe pulled me over and said, Tony go pass? But when it came down to that clutch bucket, Tony got the ball.
Playing catch up.
Is that a, yeah.
Yeah, I was.
What was your role?
Tell them why they won.
There's one particular game we was playing against Michael Sane, Preston Bond, Ronald Bond, and they, I mean, in Alabama, and Michael Sane was hard to stop, and Pike was having a great game. They couldn't stop Pike, and that was the game I was shooting quite a bit, trying to get on. And,
I remember that.
Yeah, and I was trying to get on, and so I said, man, I got to keep shooting. So therefore, finally I hit one 3-pointer. I said, okay, here we go. And so the game was 18-18. And Michael Sane, Preston was throwing the ball into Michael Sane, and I knew where he was going with it. I intercepted the ball. It was 18-18. I intercepted the ball. I was falling out of bounds, so I threw it to Tyrone, and I came back in. Tyrone whipped it back to me, and it was just in one motion, 3-pointer, and it was a game.
I remember when I stole that pass, and Tony ran to the open spot. We got y'all. And I gave him the ball like that, and Tony went. And then when it went in, Tony did like this.
Same time. So you know the things that LeBron them doing now, we used to do that back in the day. So,
What was the song that you used to sing? I want you to all say it at the same time if you can.
Full force.
Do it. Put your hands in. Let's hear it.
Full force, get busy one time.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Wow, I don't know how we topped that. I mean, look at these guys. What are you going to do if these guys show up? So funny. Beautiful, guys. Thank you so much. All right, so now I want to talk about the new school. RJ, come on up here. Aric Lee, come on up here. Please welcome to the stage media legend Aric Lee and current Idaho Vandal RJ Walker. Come on up here, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. AKA Sniper Boy. Great to see you. I've seen RJ more recently than a lot of you because we met up in Idaho, which was awesome. And he keeps getting taller and filling out. And so, first of all, Aric, thank you so much for being here. You know the history of Decatur much more than I do. You're a native. I just want to give you the attention that you deserve because I've seen you personally invest in kids way beyond what your job required of you. That's right, that's right. And can we just clap it up for Aric because local coverage, as we know, is just, the economics of it make it very difficult to sustain jobs now. And even through the craziness of that world, it was as if Aric was getting paid $1 million. I mean, he always gave it 100% and just went way above and beyond for the kids of Decatur and all of Macon County. So I haven't got a chance to publicly say that. I just want to say you were somebody who I was trying to emulate when I was here because of just how great at your job you are, but more importantly, the heart of what you're doing. So thank you so much for being here. And I want to know more about Aric Lee's origin story. Like, who did you grow up watching in Decatur? Who are some of the guys that you idolized as somebody who was born in
79.
79. Okay, so you're coming up. You're an 80s and a 90s baby. Who are those guys that you're like, man, I wish I could be like so and so?
Well, I'd like to say I was a basketball player, but that ended in 5th grade. I got a great 5th grade story that nobody wants to hear. But we did beat St. Pat's 2-on-5 at the tail end because they couldn't press because it was a small court. But, I was a baseball guy and a football guy. But man, I just always loved basketball. Started to be an Illinois fan, my mom, my dad. Saw a lot of Millikin games. My dad would take me. I'd stay up late and watch Rodney a little bit as I started to get older. Because this St. T dude was playing on ESPN at 10 o'clock tonight. This dude's dating a cheerleading coach too. Oh, God.
Shout out to Karen Walker. Shout out to Karen Walker. That's Karen.
I interviewed. I found that out. I never found that out until we did this great interview series, which I created. It lasted 1 year because of sponsorships. But every day in February during Black History Month, we talked. I didn't want to talk to everybody that everybody already knew, but we did have Rodney on. He goes, "Man, I didn't go after cheerleaders. I'm going after the coach." It's like, I didn't know that. So it's your turn. You met that Idaho cheerleading coach yet? Or? Probably don't want to Idaho.
I try to grill him though about his girlfriends when I visit him in Idaho. So yeah, keep tabs on him.
Well, you got to rank them, but you can't tell everybody the ranking.
No.
So I went to Steve Decatur, and obviously the greatest moments of my life was watching the '97 Steve Decatur team. But before that, I got to learn a little more historically the boys Jason Anderson played with. And those MacArthur 95, 96 teams. And my media side comes out because I think they're probably the greatest team that I got to watch, as much as I love my Running Reds boys. But it was a...
Who were some of those names that we're talking about with those?
Cortez and John Cliff. When I was in 6th grade, my best friend was a year older than me, and he went to Roosevelt. And I lived on Harrison. He lived across the street from me. If you know where Harrison is, it's close to, it's way close to MacArthur. But I was going to Mount and Stephen Decatur, and he was going to Roosevelt MacArthur. So I got the best of both worlds. And he takes me to a game, and he goes, we got to do the dunk. And John Cliff had 2 breakaway dunks at Roosevelt in 8th grade. And I was like, oh, shoot. So that was kind of the beginning of me getting to know these groups. And Romano Dees, I always loved watching Romano play. He was so smooth. And Corley Lee, then a couple years later. The Stephen Decatur team in 97, Tyrese, Torres Cook, I think the most underrated player of all time. People don't talk about Torres near enough. Michael Wilder was an instant firework. Chris Rice, biggest heart on that crew, with some other guys. JV team was led by Cordy Carson and Chris Carson, so I got to know the Carson family. I was really good friends with Adrian Carson, who's the one Carson that never ever got to shoot a basketball. Just made AD just dribble around the entire neighborhood, but nobody ever let him shoot. And you saw him shoot, and we found out why. But he was on that team.
How do you remember that?
And I saw why, because I saw Chris and Cordy take every single shot of every single JV game. Like, oh, Eddie shouldn't have played with these guys. And then I did announcements, so I got a voice that just happened to. Ed Bain asked me, 2-time player of the year, Ed Bain, by the way, nobody talks about.
Yeah, right.
Asked me to do the morning announcements, which led to me doing the girls' basketball games my senior year, doing the starting lineups on the Chicago Bulls for 5 parents Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Which a guy did the Stephen Decatur boys games. I started to fill in for him. He left after that great year. I became the voice of that. Then the turkey tournament. I got to see all those turkey tournaments for about 10 years right in the front row. And then radio totally fell on my lap. So that's kind of where I got to know and then watch. And when I got into radio, though, the county expanded. I was at the newspaper, too, for 7 years while I was a PA announcer. So storytelling started to become something fun. I started to realize I got interviewed 3 times as a football, baseball player, 3 or 4 times. And I was never the best player on anything. So I was a guy that wanted to mention how great the great players were. But let's talk to your teammates and give them some love. And we'll talk about the great players with you and give you some love, because it'll be a moment they'll remember. So I think storytelling, you find a way to talk to everybody. So it became a lot of fun to do that, and then grow up, and then get into the Lewis Jackson years and the Marcus Barkley years, and onto the last Jabrin and RJ and Brian Lett and all these great groups. But financially, after 12 years of radio, it was time to do something else. But I'm still going to do the fun stuff and call games. The good and the bad of that is I just call St. T games now, because that's all they get sponsorships for. So if you want to sponsor, you want to get sponsors, you can call the radio station. Maybe we can do somebody else. But unfortunately, that's where we are. I got to do it in this heyday. W&D always had some pretty good guys. Jonas, Nillis, Mark and House did a great job. So I'm giving it back to Gordon, because Gordon, at the middle of it, when I started to get tired, Gordon comes along, and loved to Ron Rector, Mike Cleff. There's some great sports guys in the W&D, but nobody did it like Gordon. Gordon's been the best of the best, hands down. And Ron Rector's probably right there close. And what I liked even more is he looks 10 years older than me, but he's 10 years younger than me. And he can take the heat. But also Buzz Boom and Kevin Hale calling games, and Ed Neighbors and his crew. We had all this competition, and then suddenly 2 years ago, everybody's out, So nothing's getting covered anymore. It's just Mark to tell the stories, which is really disappointing. But that's just that's been my road. But love to Gordon, because nobody's put the time in. You did it in a way I felt like I was doing it. You went over the top. It's like, okay, good. Let's just keep doing this together. So, and I reached out to Gordon and said, look, we're not opponents here.
No, not at all.
We do things differently in the same way.
Pulling for the same team.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the truth.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Did I answer that question?
Yeah.
I had a 3-hour radio show for a lot of years, so I'm used to talking.
Right. Yeah, just really quick, the Lewis Jackson team, Eisenhower, those guys are my age. So that's my first thing I ever heard about Decatur was that Eisenhower team.
Yeah.
And when Lewis was at Purdue, I was at Illinois, so heard all about him. So yeah, because they got tripped up by Champaign Central, they're not quite in the statewide record books, but they're just as good as those state
This is-
championship teams.
This is all Decatur basketball.
Yeah.
I go to bat for Decatur basketball. I think you assemble our best. We can play with every community. Peoria's got a big conversation in
I
there.
might add, I believe that Champaign Central game was the only game they lost that year.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I told Jeremy Moore all the time, I hate I've always hated undefeated records. It's a useless thing to bother.
Decatur would have been in the record books. We have too many potholes. If Decatur had one school, then it'd be a whole different ball game. Decatur has a lot of
That's
talent.
true, but Springfield, Peoria, they got multiple high schools too. We can't use that as an
Decatur
excuse.
got a lot of little potholes that take a
Steve
lot
Decatur,
of talent.
the Steve Decatur team got caught. MacArthur got bumped by over in Springfield, the 95, 96 teams. Steve Decatur got caught by Randy Rice and Steve Dixon. Looking ahead to Manual, Lewis. Really, the better team was Lewis's junior year that lost O'Fallon in the super sectional. Boy, if Wesley Dawson and Brendel Griggs, Lester Hart had one more year, or Lewis and Jeremy were a year older. I mean, we just haven't gotten over that hump, which is really disappointing because Decatur basketball has been unbelievable. And it's impossible to rank. Your all-time teams are impossible to rank. It's been so good. Back to you guys and the current guys. But it's just so hard. It's just so hard. It's a tough game.
All right, so pick your all-time Decatur 5 from your media perspective.
So
knowing that everybody who's left off, there's still love there. Just
all-time careers or all-time players?
To win a game.
I got to put 5 guys on the floor to win a game.
Win one game, yeah.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
Well, I've done this a million times, but
Because I think you submitted one when I put the word out there. Send me your all-time 5s that you would pick. I know Kevin.
There's 5. To win a game is one way to put it.
Yeah.
Torres is going to be my point guard, but Lewis is a better player. If I'm going to win a game, I want Torres to be my point guard. Tyrese, there's nobody going to snipe like Tyrese, so Tyrese on there too. So now I'm a super homer going to start with 2 Steve Decatur guys I graduated with.
So Torres went to UIC.
Hutchinson for JUCO.
Hutchinson, okay.
Top JUCO
JUCO
program in the country at the time, and then went to UIC.
And what about him makes you pick him?
You could watch him the entire game. You didn't know if he had 2 points and 17 assists, or 38 points and no assists, or 15 turnovers. He was level-headed the whole way, and he was a stop the bleeding bucket. Stop the bleeding buckets. Every team needs to stop the bleeding guy. Every great team needs to stop the bleeding guy. All right, we're on an 8-0 round. We turn it over twice. Shit's falling apart. Who's going to get a bucket? And that was Torres. It was actually Torres more than Tyrese probably, or at least Torres set somebody up for that bucket. So Torres and Lewis are on that point guard level together. Tyrese. See, I never saw much junior.
You can't forget about you.
I never saw much junior. Yeah. I was in 8th grade when junior
Eric, come on up and
graduated.
talk about Junior, because you brought him up before when we were at Diamonds. Talk
That
about
probably
Junior.
is true.
Come on up here.
I can only give you what I saw. This is another argument I can only do. Yeah.
Don't talk about what you know.
Rodney used to pick up Junior Bob to go to the Y and play one-on-one because he was so quick. That's how good Junior was. But Rodney was overseas and everything.
Yeah. When Junior was a senior, he graduated in 90. I thought he graduated in 93 or 94. I guess I just never saw Eisenhower. I got love for Rocky Singleton. I thought Rocky was a nice
You
player.
don't see Eisenhower much now.
Yeah.
From your perspective, though, go ahead.
John Cliff's definitely got to be part of that lineup. Cortez has to be part of that lineup from what I saw.
Two-time, Cortez was two-time Macon County.
Yeah, and I think John won it as a sophomore. I think John won it once too. So, and it's got to be Rodney. I don't necessarily watch Rodney in high school, but I watch Rodney play in college. So, give me Lewis or Torres at the point. Tyrese. Rodney's probably gonna play a little 4 with John Cliff and Cortez. And I think that's a pretty easy out list. Cortez, I guess. I mean, Dave Scholes played in the NBA. How good was Dave Scholes? I always have to ask this question, but nobody knows. Nobody saw Dave Scholes play. And it was a little lighter colored NBA back in the day. But,
Bill Matlock from Decatur. He played for the Chicago Cubs, third base. Nobody.
Yeah, Bill Matlock.
Yeah, nobody.
I look back at stats and think Sturgis Jones is very underrated. it never got the song, but Bill Madline, Perry Hite is absolutely underrated. Mark Tupper, I'm all about hearing stories now, and Mark Tupper, I think his favorite player of all time is Perry.
It's tough when you got, each generation gets better.
Yeah.
Because especially with media coverage, Perry Johnson.
Yeah, and you also can't look up the old school stuff. I was gonna say, you could barely look up. I mean, if it's a college that Tennessee State did a pretty good job, so I found some stuff online. Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a name that nobody ever mentions a lot, but one of the toughest ball players I ever played against in my life. A guy by the name of Louis Jones.
Louis Jones, absolutely.
Louis Jones.
By far.
So who's Louis Jones for folks that don't know?
Terrible.
You give him buckets. You gotta give him buckets. You know what
Keita probably can tell you more about it because he played on Keita's Gus Macker team with him.
Yeah, what do you think? Who's Louis Jones?
He'll give him buckets.
I mean, he's a freak. I mean, he's a freak of nature.
Yeah.
I mean, he can play against big, small, quick, fast, can shoot, jump,
With jeans on and Stacey Adams and no socks. He was playing in sandals.
Yeah.
Playing some penny loafers.
He really can play those.
We had this conversation with Lewis about Lewis. Rashard Griffin was 6'10".
No, 7 foot, 7'2" maybe, yeah.
300 pounds or so. Peoria playing him in the Gus Macker, and I'm seeing big Rashad down there just bucking and crying because Lewis is just sitting back there like this with a forearm in his back. And Lewis is not bucking at all. And I tell people I've played all around the world, and I'm strong. I'm strong, and I'm playing against guys that's super strong in the weight room. He didn't have weight room strength. He had some from a different galaxy. He had something from somewhere else, because when you touched him, and everything he did was like a piece of iron.
Yeah.
It was just a piece of iron. It's a different kind of strength. And it was some strength that wasn't from here.
Yeah. We talk about mental health. Like all us guys here. Anybody seen Lewis?
I just seen him last month. He around here somewhere.
We can say there, he's real strong about mental health. You know what I mean? You lose it anytime.
I ain't never seen a basketball player with killer instinct like this man. Like, if you got on the court with this man, you better bring your best.
He had to.
And he didn't get tired.
If you didn't bring it, he was gonna beat you.
He would hold the point guard, the 2 guard, the 3, center, the 4, and the 5 in one sequence. I knew once. Amazing player. I used to pick Lewis up and play one-on-one. I knew once I got by him, once I could handle that ball in front of Lewis, I could handle the ball in front of anybody in the country. Yeah. I knew once I could get by this guy right here. Okay, because we used to like to play with the ball a little bit. Kip used to get on and say, quit playing with the damn ball, go on to the basket. I could play with it and hesitate. I would lose Lewis way over here. By the time I got to the basket, he's right here. He had recovery speed like a vampire. Yeah. And the strength that I've never tested to this day. I'm gonna tell you a story real quick about Louis Jones and Rodney. We was at Garfield Park. Rodney came home from college, he had on all white. Had on the Jordan shorts and white t-shirt and all of that. It had just rained and Garfield Park had a little mud puddle at the end of the basket. Right. And Rodney went past Louis and Rodney went to go up for the layup and Louis fouled him. Knocked him all in the mud. Rodney got up, looked, he had on all white in the mud. Louis told him, man, get up. Get up, ain't nothing wrong with you. Get up. You're just a little dirty. You're not up here to play. He went into a whole thing. Get up. Go home then. If you're dirty, go back home. I mean, that's just how Louis was. Yeah. Louis would bust your lip, he would foul you, whatever. Get back up. I'm strong, you strong. And, that's just what he thought. Everybody was just as strong as he was, and he made you play. Louis to this day, Louis can see these young high school boys playing, and he gonna tell them, "Yeah, I'm still strong. I'm still strong. You look strong." Another story, Monty Wilson. He caught Monty Wilson.
Here, you need to get the mic. Come on up here. Come on, get the mic.
Yeah, Rodney, you was there. Give him that.
Eric Dabner.
Louis Jones. Louis Jones got
caught Monty Wilson.
He caught Monty Wilson Sr. at Lincoln Park. Monty had on his he was at Tennessee State, had on his Tennessee State gear and everything, and Lewis seen him, and Lewis always wanted to challenge.
Oh,
Always. Whoever you are, Lewis gonna challenge you. He said, Monty, you look good. You look good. You look strong. Monty said, man, what's wrong with you, Lewis? Lewis said, yeah, I'm strong too, though. And they played one-on-one, man. Monty will tell you to this day, Monty will be like, man, Lewis Jones, man, animal. Animal. Monty Wilson is in Atlanta right now. If you call him and say Lewis Jones, he's gonna say, man, it's no name for him. That was Lewis Jones. Yeah.
Peter said he was literally, when he was playing Monty, he was literally in Stacey Adams.
Yeah.
Playing that game.
Seriously.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
I was coaching at Millikin, and Lewis came. He was playing at Richland Community College. Richland had a sports team. Lewis torched us for 40. We beat him, but Lewis torched us for 49. And he was just playing. From 3-point, he had 3 or 4 dunks, and he was playing. But there was a quote, somebody said Michael Jordan, the difference between Michael Jordan and Larry Bird, Michael Jordan made you look slow. Larry Bird made you look stupid. Lewis made you look slow and stupid.
That's amazing.
At the same time. And weak.
All right, so guys, I'm going to help fill in some of the cracks with the new school. And we have RJ here, who's an example of what hard work and perseverance can get you. So Kevin and Scott, you guys both called his games. So could you join Aric in just sharing a little bit about RJ and some of the memories you have of the, let's call it the 2000s to the 2010s kind of era. So Kevin, Hale, thank you so much. And you and Aric would love to hear, just fill in the story of RJ and his era.
I had the pleasure to call Decatur basketball, and I'm sorry that there's kind of a hole in covering Decatur basketball right now that Scott and I kind of went away. I appreciate Aric giving us a little shout out. I'm going to talk a little bit first about, before I talk about RJ as a basketball player in his era, I want to talk about RJ as a person. I've told this story before. I told this at Skywalker when he went away to go out. I've never not cried and not told the story, so please bear with me. However hard he worked, and he was in the gym all the time. I know his dad, you didn't have a choice, did you? The bottom line is, as hard as he worked, there's no way to talk about how big this kid's heart is. I don't know if you guys know my story. I was told about 10 years ago I was going to die because my kidneys were shutting down. I only had about 3% kidney function, and I was on dialysis. I was pretty sick, but I was not going to stop working, so I went into work every day. And RJ and his friends would come walking by, and I was covering their games with Scott. And RJ would walk in every day and poke his head in my classroom and ask how I was doing. And we started the O&M posse, if you remember very well. O&M stands for On My Mama. So every time we saw each other, we'd say, On My Mama, I'm doing well. And then I'd look at him and say, On My Mama, I love you. And we would do that back and forth. But no matter what RJ did throughout his day, he would always check on me in the morning. And when you're going through what I was going through, to have a young man, forget about him as a basketball player. I mean, RJ's a baller. Okay, whatever you think about him as a basketball player, it speaks far more about him as a man to care about a fat old man who I really had no impact on his life, but he showed kindness and caring and compassion to me when I needed it the most. And RJ can go to the NBA, break LeBron's scoring records. God bless him, I hope he does all that. The bottom line is, as a man, I will jump in front of a train to save this man's life because I feel he saved a small part of mine. But the one thing I remember about Grasshopper is his incredible ability to find his shot on the court. Long range, inside game. And it didn't matter. Whenever Scott and I always got there 2 hours before the game to cover the game because we wanted to say hi to everybody. It was one of the things we really liked doing. I think it's one of the things Coach Walker really respected. We were there before the fans were. we'd go in, and he'd always have a ball in his hand, putting up shots before the game. Before any other kids were there, he'd be firing shots, and he'd always come over and talk to us and sit and ask how we were doing. Two overweight, fat old men that loved Decatur basketball and covered it for a long time. And all I remember about his era is Eisenhower's and Rodney's era is before those guys really got there, Eisenhower's gym was kind of empty. And after they got there, it kind of filled up so that showed me that RJ and Coach Walker were pretty special, and they were bringing something to Decatur. Enjoyed covering MacArthur for so long. I've got a MacArthur, don't tell the Eisenhower kids, please. I have a MacArthur tattoo on my right shoulder. I got a park story too. I used to go to the park all the time, and one time, I don't even know if Keita and Kip remember this, they picked me. My friends would show up to the court all the time because we were the Dennis School Bandits. We went down to Dennis School and balled, and we beat a bunch of kids that were real easy to beat. We go down there and we found out that, I don't know if you remember, you saw those beautiful Sports Illustrated posters of, you know, the athletes dunking, George Gervin, finger rolling, Jordan dunking. Well, we were the guys at the bottom of the poster getting dunked on at the park. And I remember going there, we played one game, and Coach Walker's remember this. We played one game, and we'd get there and we'd stand, and they'd come by and say, well, you gotta win, kid, you gotta win. And I learned a lot about basketball and life and about multiculturalism and finding out that Rasheed Wallace said it best, ball don't lie. And so it was good. But I really enjoyed covering not only just his era, but the kids that played and went up and really started bringing back winning basketball to Decatur, because we had been hurting so long. I don't know if you guys know, I was the baseball coach at Eisenhower, and I'm proud to say I'm the worst baseball coach in the history of baseball. If you look at my record, we didn't win a whole lot. But I had the pleasure to coach some great kids and great people who tried to bring it every day. And that love of sport comes from the legends that are in this room. I mean, the Carson family is, I'm not worthy to carry their shoes. I remember seeing Wayne play at Millikin and do a Dr. J spin off the glass underneath the thing. And I mean, I followed him around like a puppy when I went to Millikin because he was such a hero of mine. The fact that the Carsons and all of them, and you know, Al Lawson, who's a very dear friend of mine, could really ball. I played football with Al. I was the linebacker, and I blocked for him when he ran for 200 yards. And Al would never have to practice. He'd always be over in the corner sitting in a lawn chair getting ice on his knees. And I'd say, Coach, man, can I get some of that ice and get some of that lawn chair? And Pete Dennis looked at me and said, you fat piece of cake, if you rush for 200 yards a game, I'll let you sit in a lawn chair all you want too. So, but there were some good kids. But as far as RJ goes, I mean, I'm going to give you the mic and let you talk, because you've been standing there for an hour not saying nothing. The bottom line is, I think RJ going to Idaho, he carries us with him there. I mean, I'm an Idaho Vandal basketball player because I'm a big RJ fan. I'll root for the Vandals forever. Number one, I was one growing up on the near west side. And two, I really appreciate the fact that he's an example of hard work, being a good student, being a good person, and letting all those things collide at the first time. He's the best of what Decatur represents wherever he goes. Like I told you, I don't care what he is in life. There's nothing that will speak to what a good person he is and how much he's persevered and how much he helped me in my perseverance. I love him. He's a little brother. And, if he ever needs anything, all he's gonna do, I don't care if it's 2 a.m, kid, I'll come get you. I love him. And I love Coach Walker and the way he gave us access to his basketball teams. You never cut us out, Coach. You could have we had a lot of coaches froze us out. You know, after the game, they big timed us and walked by. We weren't anything special, but I remember Coach running over after every game, whether you won or lost, you sat down and talked to us. That was class. You know, that's a lot of dignity that Decatur needs to have, and you've represented that, Coach Walker. Give that man a round of applause. And I don't think anybody's done more for Decatur kids as far as getting a ball in their hands than Coach Walker. I mean, I have kids at school. I coach basketball at Johns Hill, and they dream about sky ice. That's all I hear about is sky ice. I think the way that he's invested in our kids is going to pay it forward for a long, long time. RJ, what's it like to be an Idaho Vandal? Tell me what it's like to be at a big-time school playing big-time basketball.
Playing big-time basketball and being out there away from home has helped me mature a lot. I feel like I was mature my senior year, but now I have a different perspective on a bunch of things. Like, coming out of high school, I was the man. I felt like I was on top of the world, but then you go to college, you got to restart. And I feel like most people don't have a strong enough mindset to be able to thug it out those first few years, and that's why a lot of people from here end up back home. But I feel like I'm in the right mindset, and I'm able to keep working and keep my head down and focus on the bigger picture.
RJ, what gave you your ability to connect to people? I think it's probably your greatest character trait is the way you invest in the room and make everybody around you better. I think all my true great basketball players, Lewis Jackson, Al Lawson, the Jones brothers, all of the greats, the true greats, made everybody else around them better. Tyrese Bryson, although Tyrese put a lot of shots up before he made anybody better. Where did you get that from? Where is that in your heart? Where does that come from?
Well, I'm a product of my dad and my mom. And if it was just my dad, I'd be taking every shot out there.
He didn't see what he did like.
But my mom has a good heart, and I feel like keeping her around helps me keep everybody involved, regardless if I think they're gonna make the shot or not. But I just know how to balance both, and I know when it's time for me to get up on it and when it's time to get out. So.
If a Decatur kid was watching this, oh yeah, give him a round of applause. If a Decatur kid was watching this, that's true. If a kid, I'm trying not to laugh, stop. If a kid was of your level and you were going to give them some advice to play at the next level, would you tell them it's sad that the parks around Decatur are vacant now? There's a beautiful brand new complex at Johns Hill, brand new courts, brand new hoops, brand new rims. I teach at Johns Hill and I look out the windows and I never see anybody on those courts. I mean, what would you say to a kid because these guys all had someplace where steel sharpened steel. Wayne Dunning went somewhere where he knew he was going to get dunked on, and then he had to learn to dunk on them. Where would you tell kids to go to find themselves now?
Oh, it's a bunch of people in Decatur who are willing to help. I mean, my dad coaches at Eisenhower, Teresa, MacArthur. All you got to do is shoot them a text or call. They'll open the gym whenever. It's not like they don't want to see the future get better, you know. At first I had to bug my dad. He was a busy man, but basketball, I wouldn't even say I was motivated. It was just like something I always did. Like, it was just like breathing for me. Like, after school, me and my dad always meet at the gym, and I feel like if there was another kid out there that wanted the same help with him that I did, he would be willing to help, because he'd always make time for the kids, and if they show him they really want it, he'd be willing to help for sure.
How much did your books really help you? Because I know your mom, I know you weren't going to have any F's on your report cards. So. I mean, when you were being recruited, that was a big thing, true or false?
Very true. Actually, my first year of high school, my mom put me in early bird PE. And it was 7:30 in the morning, and I'm not running a mile before school. Like, I'm not being funky the whole day, you know. So we get the report cards. I got a B in PE. I thought it was cool, but I guess my mom wasn't really too happy about that. She told me if I ever come home with a B in PE at least, like, I probably won't see the course. So.
I remember recruiting you in 0 hour PE to play baseball. Remember when we were hitting? And I asked the coach, I said, hey, let RJ come up here and get in the cage, and you wouldn't get in the cage. I remember that. You said, I don't want none of that. But you went down and balled in 0 hour. I went to the parks all the time. I lived at 1238 Westwood. They tore down my house. I lived right behind the teak house. And I walked to all the parks every day just to watch you guys play. I wasn't good enough to get on the court to play, but me and my friends would go, and we would sit there and watch just the steel glares. The way you guys would just push each other to the limit, foul each other, and we'd be like, well, there's no way we could survive that foul. I heard a lot Reverend Dunning talking about how rough it was, and it was truly, truly rough basketball. But it was also great basketball. You could see everybody making each other better. I wish we had that for you guys, the younger generation, because I think we're missing that toughness. You know, in basketball now they don't touch you. You know, if you go to the basket, they let you dunk. I remember we grew up in the generation of the bad boys, the Detroit Pistons, knocking you. If you went to the basket, you were getting a layup. You were gonna, and a lot of guys in this gym played in that era where if you had an open layup, you were getting hammered. Now it's you go home with you won't have muddy Jordans, will you? Now you go home pretty clean. So.
RJ, who are the names that you looked up to? So as somebody who's part of this current generation, who are the people that you looked up to in Decatur?
Who are some ballers? Maybe some guys in this gym you looked at and said.
Yeah, or like Lewis Jackson, you know, who are those guys for you?
Well, the guys I looked up to were pretty young compared to like these guys.
That's all right. Go ahead. Say who they were.
Well, I grew up in my dad's SkyWalker league, and like T-Ray said, his backyard was like the equivalent to SkyWalker now. So those games, like on Saturdays, meant a lot to me. Like those were my games. Like if I lost those games, the whole weekend was ruined. So I took big pride in those little games, regardless if I was 3, 4, to all the way to 14. And when I was little, I always looked up to the twins, Amir and Amon Brummett, because they always played after me, regardless at the SkyWalker games. And then when I got to middle school, they always did their thing in MacArthur. But then once I got to Eisenhower, I wasn't really looking up to them anymore because I had to guard them. So that was over with. But other than that, I didn't really look up to many people. My dad told me a bunch of stories about him, but I didn't really believe him until COVID happened and he put out the tapes and stuff. I was like, all right, he may have been decent.
Your dad was a pretty good basketball player. Like I said, RJ brings a lot to the table, but he'll never bring more to the table than his heart. I hope you guys remember that. There's no reason not to be an RJ Walker fan. So if you get a chance and you're flipping through the paper, look at some Idaho Vandal basketball and pray for this kid, because I do every day. He's special to me, and his family's special to me. And I want to thank Pastor Dunning for being a hero to me all these years. I coached against you. I cried the first time I beat you, because you'd always been, remember you were at Hope and I was at the Hill, and you came over and said some very gracious words to me. And I don't think you guys know the impact you have on other people. I think, you know, you guys have lived your lives and they all been wonderful, but the Jones brothers are my heroes. I'm a class of '83, and the year they lost to Moose Nika, Ed Horton, and Kevin Gamble, I cried like a baby. I cried like a baby. I had an M painted on my bare-chested shirt. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want you to see my breast. But the bottom line is, I love that team. Al Lawson, all those kids were very special to me because I grew up with them, and I got to watch them and wrap my life around them. And, I know you guys in your world understand there are other worlds that revolve around you that very much love you and appreciate everything you did. And I want to let you know my planet did that. So thank you so much for doing that.
I got one more thing to say. Even though I wasn't able to look up to all you guys because I didn't play in the like Martin Luther King era. I will say that all y'all played a part in helping me become who I am today, regardless if it was CJ's basketball camps, Mr. Dunning's camps. Mr. Dunning was even my tutor and teacher at one point. T-Ray letting me hoop with them at a young age. Courtney even let me come over to his house a few times when high school got rough with me and my dad, and I didn't want to go home with him. So like, just everybody played a big role in helping me become who I am today, and I appreciate y'all.
Yeah. This is incredible. So I did say that we were going to end at 4 o'clock, but I'd like to do 2 more things before we wrap up today. One is I want to provide a space. You know, there have been a lot of memories that have been jostled free, I'm sure, for a lot of you. Are there any names that need to be mentioned that have not been mentioned so far?
Walt Smith.
Yeah.
Dave Hite.
Dave Hite. Yeah, Dave, come on up here, Dave. Yeah, please.
I'm going to turn it over. I just thought it was amazing. First of all, the way RJ is so humble. There's been some really good parenting that have happened in the last 20 years with the guys that I've covered. A lot of the players of the year have been the worst interviews because they're just such quiet kids, at least with me. I know they're not quiet kids in real life. Monty Wilson Jr. was a terrible interview. RJ, tough to get anything out of him. Even Tyrese was quiet, and John Cliff were quiet back in the day, you know, as far as to the media. Kamari Jones, one of my favorite kids that I got to cover, and just a few other names that I had thought of with those, and guys like Arias and Mo. Arias Young was a phenomenal player that hadn't been mentioned. So from that era, I just want to throw a few out there as we turn it over. So thanks, guys. Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you so much. All right, so while you're thinking of a name that needs to be mentioned, and I'm talking somebody who's living, but maybe it's a family member who you want to honor in memoriam, please think about that and come on up. Dave Hite is my friend from the DAC, Decatur Athletic Club. I first noticed that there's this huge, strong guy who's got just a real kind heart. And so I've been a Dave Hite fan even before I knew he was a basketball player. He was always so nice to me at the DAC. So Dave, you played at, it was Bethany, correct? You're like a 6'6" action figure, so you know he was good on the boards. Just share some of the stories about A, Bethany, and B, also, you know, a lot of the county schools don't always kind of play with or commingle with Decatur basketball. You're somebody who's played with a lot of these guys here, so I'd like to hear both about, yeah, your Bethany time, and also just like why you're here today and what's special about the county extended.
Well, what's really special is, like you said, I come from a county school. I did fairly well at Bethany. I don't like talking about myself very much. We had some good teams. But I was supposed to go to Lakeland after I graduated from high school. I went to school, I decided not to play. I sat out. That summer, Coach Burley was the coach at Niantic when I was in high school. He called and said, "Hey, will you come to Richland?" I said, "Sure." And they freed me up from Lakeland to come up here. So I got to come to Richland and play ball. It was a culture shock. I was county school, as you said, come in here and all the brothers, got to meet all the brothers, and you know, and I fell in love with one, Jimmy Bolton. We were teammates, we all roomed together when we went out. And basketball's been good to me because of that. I got to play with the Carson boys. I did well at Richland. But Jimmy called me up one day, and of course the Carson boys didn't know who they were. And I finally knew who they were. Jimmy called me up one day and says, "Hey, we need another player. Tyrone wants you to come play with us." I said, "I'm not good enough to go play with these guys." So Jeff Roth was on the team, and Wayne Dunning, and we went over to Champaign. And you know, it's just been a blessing to get to know all these guys from Decatur. And it's fun to watch and hear the stories. So.
Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate that. All right, so wait, did Courtney leave? We got to take the group photo. Where'd he go? There he is. Okay. Yeah, if I could have everybody, thank you so much, Dave. That was really special. And if I could just say, again, as somebody who moved into this community, that's one thing I noticed is that Decatur gets along with itself much higher than the average community in America. There's a lot of divisions just in society, and it's so cool to see memories like that of how sports is a unifying force in society. And so that's just, I just want to celebrate that. Unless there's any other names that you'd like to mention, yeah, Jeff?
I'd just like to mention, I touched a little bit on who influenced my life, my career, like Sturgey, and there were other players. But there's some coaches that I want to shout out to.
Okay.
And two of them are not with us anymore. One of them is Coach Bob Kirk, that was very influential in my life, and Coach John Eubanks. And if it wasn't for those men, I wouldn't have been the ball player that I was. And I'd like to shout out to Jack said.
Jack, yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
Excellent. Any other names that you feel like that?
And Dean Padgett, I'm sorry.
Dave Padgett?
Dean
okay,
Padgett.
Dean Padgett.